You're still watching Joy News here on DSTV channel 41 and GoTV channel 144. And I think it's very fitting that I introduce this feed because President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is on a working visit to Ghana. President Akufo-Addo is expected to hold bilateral talks with Mr. Ramaphosa. Ahead of that, the two will brief the press and sign a memorandum of understanding. Let's go live to the Jubilee House and get the latest.
The second will be a joint communique between the government of Ghana and the government of South Africa on the occasion of the working visit to Ghana of His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. Excellencies, it's time to address the media. The first to speak will be the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, after which President Cyril Ramaphosa will respond, and they will also take a maximum of 2 questions from the media. Mr. President.
So, members of the media, we're very, very happy today in Ghana to welcome to Jubilee House and to our country one of the outstanding figures in the politics of our times in Africa. A man who has excelled in so many different areas of engagement, famous trades union leader, very successful businessman, and also the father of South Africa's democratic constitution, the man who presided over the Consultative Assembly that drew up South Africa's constitution. So we have a big chief who has come to visit us here in Ghana. And we're very, very happy to welcome you here to Ghana. And I'm particularly happy about this visit because last year, the South African government and him, Mr. President, honored me by making me the first foreign head of state to visit South Africa during the presidency of President Ramaphosa. So there's something which is part of my CV that is there in a big way. So we're very happy to have him here. All of you know the historic links between our country and South Africa. We're very vocal in the fight against apartheid. Our country was a place of refuge for many of South Africans, freedom fighters as well as ordinary South Africans. I remember growing up here in Accra and coming across several students from South Africa who had come to study here in Ghana. And since then, we've had very, very, very strong relations with them. The purpose of this visit is to transform that relationship into something even more intimate and stronger. We want to build a strategic partnership with South Africa. South Africa is our second biggest trading partner on the continent. And we believe that the time has now come to enhance the conversation and the relationship between our two countries. And that is the purpose of signing not the standard permanent joint commissions for cooperations that are quite common, but a binational commission at the level of the presidents of our two countries to indicate the importance that we attach to the relationship on both sides. And that binational commission is now going to encompass the work in several different areas, in investment, in trade. But more importantly, I think, and I said this to the President during our tete-a-tete as well as during the bilateral, I think it's also very important that we stress the nature of cultural exchanges between our two peoples. There's a strong basis for it here. South Africa's cultural icons like Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela. Ghana was their second home in the dark days of apartheid. And they provide us with the link between the cultural communities of both countries. I believe that these people-to-people exchanges, cultural linkages, become a very strong force for promoting a sense of solidarity and good relations between our two peoples. In the same way, we know that South Africa today is a major sporting power in the world. World rugby champions, world this champions, in so many areas. And I'm very strongly of the view that we in Ghana can benefit from a structured relationship with South Africa in the field of sports. And I'm hoping that it will be one of the items that the Binational Commission, when it is inaugurated in the early part of next year, will take on board and find a mechanism and modalities for making that happen. South Africa is very soon about to take over the leadership of our continental organization, the African Union. And it is important that they understand that Ghana will be a very strong and supporter of whatever initiatives President Ramaphosa wants to take to advance the cause of continental unity, continental solidarity, and the peace and stability of the continent, and the security of the continent. Whatever decisions that are going to be taken, he should know that Ghana will be firmly by his side, because we know the very positive posture that he wants to adopt for the future of our continent. So we are on all the various levels, diplomatic, political, economic, cultural, sporting, all of these various levels of engagement. We're hoping that this visit will be a signal that those are now going to take the front stage place in Ghana's engagement in Africa. We're very happy to have you here, Mr. President, and that you came with this important delegation of ministers for us to review our relations and then set it on the basis of this new keel that we want to see happen in Ghana. Ghana is your home, and we're expecting that apart from this very brief visit, that we'll have a full-blown state visit from President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa here to us here in Ghana. Thank you. So, Mr. President, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, President. You truly make us feel at home, for we regard Ghana as our home from home. My entire delegation are truly elated and very pleased to be here in Ghana. Much as it is a working visit, we already feel so much welcomed, and thank you very much indeed. We've just had wonderful discussions, both at the tete-a-tete level, as well as the talks between our two delegations. And we've touched on a whole range of matters, bilateral, between our two countries, and also continental as well as global issues. And we had an occasion to recall the historical and strategic links between our two countries. Our relationship is not yesterday's relationship. It emanates deep into history. Ghana played an important role in our struggle against oppression, apartheid, and colonialism. And Ghana became a home and a refuge to many South Africans who came here for refuge, for education, and also for cultural activities. And as you say, President, that Miriam Makeba, our national icon, who is now departed, as well as Hugh Masekela, your very, very good friend who also has departed, made Ghana their home, and they sharpened their own cultural prowess also here in Ghana. And so that increased the bond and the linkage between our two countries. During the years of struggle, we also always looked up to Ghana as a beacon of hope, a beacon of democracy. And today, we continue to see Ghana as being a real citadel of democracy and good governance and rule of law. And we as South Africans who are still young in our democratic journey have a lot to learn from Ghana, and we always watch with great admiration at the achievements that Ghana is making in this regard. So coming here for us means that we want to deepen our relationship with Ghana, and we now have a much broader spectrum of deepening that relationship. The economic level, trade between our two countries continues to grow, and we want it to grow even further. And with the accession of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, we are delighted that it is going to be a huge springboard for Ghana and South Africa to deepen their trade relations. We congratulated Ghana for having been chosen by the entire continent
All right, so that was a live feed from the Jubilee House. As we know, President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is here in Ghana for on a working visit, and they have been talking about bilateral talks. We know that Ghana and South Africa share a very rich history. Ghana was a big supporter in fighting against apartheid. It was refuge for our brothers and sisters who are fighting against apartheid. And according to the president of Ghana, we do understand that they want to build a stronger relationship with South Africa. South Africa and Ghana have agreed to elevate the bilateral relations to boost trade and investment between the two countries. Ghana, playing a refuge and home for South Africans during the apartheid era, was also further reiterated by the President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he's been saying that, you know what, we saw South Africa, well, we looked at Ghana as a beacon of hope and democracy, because we know that Ghana gained their independence very, very early stage, and only South Africa is only 23 being a democratic country, and trade between the countries continues to grow, and that's been happening at the Jubilee House. And we know President Cyril Ramaphosa was speaking, and they signed a memorandum of understanding. You're still watching the JoyNews channel on DSTV channel 41 and Go TV channel 144. I am Apiso CBD.
executing that role with a particular recognition and reference to our task and our responsibility towards Africa. So we're delighted that Ghana is our partner in a number of areas, and thank you once again for allowing so many South African companies to operate in the Ghanaian market space. We are grateful for this, and we want to see more and more Ghanaian companies operating in South Africa. We want to deepen our economic dealings. We want to deepen investment exchanges between our two countries so that both countries can move more and more towards economic development. So we are committed to working together to enhance close political, economic, and social cooperation in keeping with the mutual desire to establish a special relationship between our two countries. And I want to stress that our relationship with Ghana is in the category of special relationship, and we want to keep it that way. So thank you very much for welcoming us. Thank you very much.
We'll take 2 questions from the media. Sarah Kimani, SABC.
Good afternoon, Excellencies. My name is Sarah from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. First question is to President Akufo-Addo. As the seat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, now that it has taken effect, what will you do more to see that the continent trades with each other? And what, in your opinion, is standing in the way of African countries trading with each other? And to President Ramaphosa, you take over the seat of the African Union at the time that the African Union will be having the theme of silencing the guns by 2020. It will be 2020. The guns will not be silent. What more will you do to see a peaceful continent?
So, Madam, thank you very much for those. I think our first responsibility is to establish an efficient secretariat for the working of the trade area. And an efficient secretariat means not so much so many people, but a secretariat that will enable it to be a facilitator for business and investment on the continent. We don't want to create here in Accra some large bureaucracy that is going to stand in the way of people doing business and being able to trade. So that's our first responsibility, is to establish an efficient, business-friendly promoter for business and trade on the continent. And secondly, the agreement itself has now provided us with the mechanism for being able to facilitate trade on the continent. As we all know, our continent is the continent with the lowest level of intra-regional trade of all the groupings of the world. And the example that always springs to mind for me is that the European Union, for instance, 70% to 72% of its combined GDP derives from